Fostering connection through authenticity, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change.
Together, let's embrace vulnerability, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the People Pleaser podcast. I'm Corey.
And I'm Cindy.
And we are stripping it back to basics today. We decided that even though I've been doing this podcast solo for a while, we're really excited and hopeful that with this relaunch, with Cindy joining, that there may be new listeners. It may be an opportunity for us to create a little bit of a working definition for what people pleasing is. It's something that we throw around a lot in conversation, people pleaser this, people pleaser that, but to just kind of come back to this common understanding, the shared understanding, and something that we can kind of come back to and refine, change, add, alter as needed. So that's really the focus of today's episode. So I just want to give you a little blurb on what you can expect, and then we are going to just really launch into what people pleasing is. So today we hope to explore people pleasing as an adaptive, relational, and embodied experience by weaving together our lived stories. We want to add a psychological framing and somatic awareness. So the goal of today's episode is just basically understanding and compassion. We're not here to fix or eradicate the behavior, but really just tune into our unique experiences of people pleasing, how it shows up, how to make sense of it, and how to move through life with some of this newfound awareness.
So, Corey, how would you define people pleasing?
How would I define people pleasing? It's like kind of even hilarious to think about a definition at this point because it's just become like so embodied in so many of my experiences. And I'm actually thinking of like something that happened to me this week where I was like, whoa, this is a people pleaser moment. I think for me, in my experience, people pleasing has been this quest for connection at all costs. So I've put the need and desire for connection above my own needs. And it's been in varying degrees. And, you know, on the more extreme degrees, that's looked like total self-abandonment, to preserve the connection or to preserve the relationship. So that's kind of where my mind goes. And this week I actually was bit by my neighbor's dog. And it was like a really scary experience. I've never been bit by a dog. I love dogs. I've been around dogs my whole life. I have a dog. And I was bit in the leg by my neighbor's dog, and it like really freaked me out. Like it really scared me. The bite itself wasn't like, it did break the skin, like it was bleeding, and it actually has started to bruise pretty badly.
Oh, no.
But yeah, like my fear in the moment was like, I don't want to upset her. Like I started to like play down my feelings and like my fear and the fact that I'm like, what the F just happened? And I'm like, I don't want to shame her. I don't want her to feel bad. I don't want her to feel guilty. And I just kind of like whisked her away, like, don't worry. And the words out of my mouth was like, I'll let you off the hook with this one as they're like walking away. And then I get home and Brian, my husband, is like, he's like researching, like, what do you do when, you know, you get bit by a dog? And he's like, you have to report this. Like, this is something that, like, for the safety of the community, like, we have children and elderly people living on our street. This is one of our neighbors. There needs to be, like, a formal record of this. And I was like, but I don't want to hurt her feelings. Like, I don't want her to be mad at me. I don't want
Cause tension.
Cause tension in our relationship as neighbors. And so it actually took me probably like a full 24 hours to come to the conclusion that I should for the safety of everyone, like, and her dog included, file a report. And so that is what I ended up doing. But, so for me, like, to kind of summarize, people pleasing is like really trying to tend to others while like dampening or lessening like the perception of my own needs.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of a more formal definition would be a response to trauma and or stress that can develop into being one of the primary ways a person deals with challenges. So it almost becomes an automatic reaction in situation. It's a learned behavior from something we learned when we were younger, how to respond to a trauma. And it may look like being the peacemaker, which, that example I'd say would fall under peacemaker, confrontation avoidant,
yes,
or the good child, or the mediator, or the fixer. And it often gets identified as a personality or a characteristic, whereas really it's an adaptation, right? We learned that adaptation to feel safe in an environment that we didn't feel safe. So with the dog, even though the dog and it was threatening and you were being attacked, you wanted to make everything okay. You didn't want there to be a confrontation or make anyone feel uncomfortable around it, right? And I remember last session you said something that really resonated with me, and that was feeling unsafe and wanting to soften those edges around feeling unsafe. And that's really like people pleasing at the core, right? Something is uncomfortable or unsafe, and we want to make it more palatable, create some sort of sense of safety in there, and try and change the narrative of what we're actually feeling in the moment.
And it's interesting because I feel like we don't want to be called a people pleaser. Like that's like that name isn't like something that feels good.
No.
And I've even like, the more I talk about my own people pleasing, and it's interesting. Like I've almost started noticing that instead of saying like I'm a people pleaser, I will say like I have people pleasing tendencies. Like I don't want that to be like my personality or like a label that I put on myself. But I don't know. I am like super susceptible to people pleasing, and it does feel like a scanning for danger, and the danger truly in a lot of my people pleasing experiences is actually discomfort. It's like it's like I've learned to kind of, my body has learned that discomfort equals danger.
Yes. And
so what can I psychologically do or emotionally do to like lessen that feeling of discomfort, lessen that feeling of danger?
Yeah. And I think like both of us are highly sensitive. And I think also I realize for myself is that I'm so sensitive to other people's emotions that I'm always trying to mitigate them. So I'm always trying, and that's quite selfish. Like it's self-driven, right? Like I am uncomfortable in your emotions. So if I can just make it better, I won't have to experience the emotions that you're feeling right now as well, right? So I think there's many facets to what kind of drives the...
Yeah, and we were even talking earlier this week about like managing other people, like I was giving the example of my parents, like, they both want to talk to me at the same time. And I'm, doing this, I'm like looking back and forth. I'm trying to listen to both of them at the same time. I'm like, yes, I'm listening to you actively. Yes, I'm hearing you. Oh, and I'm, yes, your thoughts are also valid. And like, meanwhile, they're both talking to me at the same time. And I'm like, I love you guys, but also you're creating like so much work for me. And I am the last person you want doing this, because it's going to send me into like an anxious spiral, and I'm going to feel so tapped out. But it's that like, also like boundaries really come into play with people pleasing, and to just kind of like, name it, like to name what is going on can even sometimes act as a boundary and create like just a huge sense of relief in that like tenseness of trying to take care of everybody's needs at the same time.
Well, I think about to an example I had this week, which was very different for me, and it was about setting boundaries. So my son had an ultrasound appointment, and now they just notify you by text. So both he and I are waiting for ultrasounds, and he's waiting for two separate on different parts of his body. Well, the ultrasound just says you have an appointment booked. It doesn't say who. It doesn't say what for. Please go log on to figure out what the prep work was. Well, I couldn't log on because he doesn't have the proper ID to log on, yet he's a minor. So I had called and left 3 separate messages, and the old conditioning was the appointment came and they still hadn't gotten back to me. So I didn't know what the prep was. So I was pretty sure we were going to show up and not be able to do it because he hadn't done the prep work. So the night before, I'm laying in bed ruminating, they're going to be mad at me. It's so busy. People are waiting for appointments. Now I'm going to show up and they aren't going to be able to do it. The narrative spinning in our head.
I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah. The difference is that I realized what I was doing. And I also knew that boundaries in the moment, when I'm already feeling triggered, feeling like I've done something wrong or bad or hard for me. So I laid in bed and I ran through and prepped a script of what I was going to say. And my script, was going to be, well, excuse me, but I feel like I've taken every step I could, the dialogue like that. Of course, I show up and she's like, oh, don't worry about it. No problem.
Right. You're
and
like,
I'm walking
and
to
I
the
didn't
car.
get any sleep last night.
And I'm walking to the car thinking, there it is again, right? That you build it up into this big thing in your head. And, the rumination is a big part of it. Definitely, where you replay all the social interactions and,
and it's like your nervous system really truly thinks that this is going to be unsafe. This is going to be something that I can't manage, that, the stress will be too unbearable, that, and it's not just like the not knowing of like what to expect, but it's also like, feeling like you're disappointing someone, feeling like you're, wasting everybody's time. For me, like I can so quickly go into like, I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's like, no, you were actually given the most vague instructions. This actually isn't you. This has nothing to do with you, actually. Like you're actually just getting dragged through like a bogged down system, or a system that is under functioning, but you'll take it on. You're like, I'm the problem.
Well, and I think the difference is like, you've talked about this a lot too, where you would have, in the past, I would have just fallen into it and been stuck there and really like, it would have consumed me, the guilt, the feeling like I'd let someone down, all of that stuff. Now it came up, I felt it right away. And then what can I do differently to get myself out of that state, right? And taking action. For me, I look back on that and I think, okay, so there's forward movement. And I don't think that we ever get to the point where it's no longer something that is triggered or activated in us, right? It's more, I think, like healing, even though I hate that word, is about getting to the point where you, of course, there's always going to be things activating you and triggering you, but it's more getting to the point where you get through it quicker. You can name it, like feel it. Oh, this is happening. What am I going to do to get me out of this? And this is an old pattern. How am I going to reprogram how I operate in that situation?
And sometimes even for me, like, yeah, I've actually noticed, like, because I lived years without even really knowing the words people pleasing. Like I, most of my people pleasing happened when I was unaware that I was people pleasing. And, it's only been in the last few years that I've learned about it, like come to recognize it in myself. And even just that like heightened awareness, that like sense of, okay, I know what this is and I'm beginning to know like how it shows up for me, has given me like so much, I don't know, like I'm just like, okay, I at least know what this is. Because as soon as I'm like knowing what it is, then, you know, the solutions can start to reveal themselves, or, you know, I can, like you were saying, like kind of snap out of it sooner, or kind of like, course correct sooner. I agree. Like this isn't, you know, this is something that I've learned at such a young age that, and I don't say this with any kind of like resign, like, oh, it's like in me forever. It's like, no, but this is really how I've been socialized. I think we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's like, this has actually served me. It's served others in my life. It's been validated. It's really been like solidified in how I navigate the world. And I mean, you and I both, like, we've spent so much of our career in like helping professions and in these like service oriented roles where, you know, making others feel good and like building connection and relationship is like a core part of like, it's also like a value of ours that's kind of makes us more susceptible to people pleasing, or the scales can tip a little bit easier maybe.
Yes. And actually, just for the listeners, if you aren't aware of like the trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawning is the people-pleasing state. So it's where you're seeking safety by merging with wishes and demands of others. Fawning is the people-pleasing state. And like Corey was saying, it can be one of the more challenging responses to relearn, because our society is so affirming, and we do get positive feedback like, oh, the good person, or the helper, the mediator, or you're so caring or giving. There is an unteasing piece to that, you know, because it can become your identity, whereas it is just an adaptation that we've learned, and it's not really our identity. I do also have a belief, though, that people that are prone to that trauma response are probably the more sensitive, caretaker by nature, acts of service are their love language, all of those things. And I think we do tend to default into the trauma response that probably is more kind of in line with our personalities.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know for me, that was like, yep, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And maybe for you too.
Well, like I said last episode, there were so many things in my life that lined up that it's no wonder that people pleasing is or was my response, right? Oldest child, you know, a lot of those things that kind of naturally lead you down one path or the other.
And fawning for me has definitely reared its head a number of times. But for whatever reason right now I'm thinking of, I used to like want to work in like the justice system. Like I wanted to work with like incarcerated youth. And it's so interesting because I had a practicum. So this was a part of my undergrad in child and youth care, my final 4th year practicum, where I actually was working with the intake coordinator for a program that was basically, it was by the Boys and Girls Club. I don't think it exists anymore, but it was basically like a wilderness program that youth could participate instead of like jail time.
Yes.
So instead of being incarcerated, they could go on this, like, I think it was like 28-day wilderness adventure. And the way I relate this to fawning is that, like, I've always valued relationship. I've always enjoyed working with youth. I've, all these things, but like for some reason I was drawn to like the highest risk population possible. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's for a number of different reasons, but like, I mean, first of all, I just like have empathy and like want to be a positive presence in people's lives and like do good work and hopefully meaningful work. But there was a part of me that wanted to put myself in a risky situation, like wanted to tend to them because of their risk, wanted to be like the one that got through to them, wanted to be the one that like could change their path. And it was kind of this like hero mentality but I was like, I don't know, like, do you see that as fawning? Like I've always kind of felt as though that's what I was doing in those moments. And I think there's layers to it. Yeah. It's just still something that crosses my mind from time to time that I haven't fully realized.
Well, and if I think about it, I can see it twofold. And one would be that you've been affirmed as the people pleaser and the sensitive one, the one that can reach these. So like wanting the challenge, well, like maybe I'll do the hardest one.
Right.
And the other one, I think, all of these responses come from stress and trauma. And sometimes our nervous system, there's times when we actually we almost seek that charge because it's so familiar to us. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So maybe if life's calmer, sometimes you'll go out and self-sabotage or create a highly stressful situation. And I know for myself, it was decades and decades of high stress living. And when it would decrease, I would sometimes feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I wouldn't know that I was doing it, but I'd take on something else that would rev my system back up again and, create that elevated sense. Almost, I think I'd operated out of it for so long. There was almost discomfort when it was gone. Like, what do I do with myself now? I don't know what this feels like. I know this. I know this like the back of my hand, but way down here, calm and...
Well, and up here, we have so much purpose. There's so much for us to do. We're busy. We're tending to the needs of others. It's like, go, go, go. I would question how our self-care is in those moments. Totally. How is our mental health in those moments? But we're able to kind of go tunnel vision on purpose. Yeah. And I think our purpose and, people who lean towards people-pleasing purpose is usually outward, an outward focus.
Absolutely.
And it's okay, if you took all the people with needs, out of your life, if you took kids and husbands and, your responsibilities, then it's do I even have a connection to taking care of myself and tending to my own needs?
I don't know about you, but when I've ended relationships in the past, it's always been a complete rediscovery. I need to dig deep. What do I like? What do I want? Because I, always drawn to situations just where I could step into caretaking. Yes. Step into doing whatever they need. Complete self-abandonment. Yeah. And then when it was over, it's what do I like? What are my tastes?
What shows would I watch if it was totally up to me? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's also an avoidance, right? If you are taking care of everyone else, you don't have to face your fears. You don't, and at the time, I wasn't even aware. This is really the last 8 years that I even was aware of the challenge of my childhood. The last 2 years that I became aware of childhood abuse. And so just really not even aware of it or the need to do that, but I was doing it, from a deep subconscious place. Yeah. Historically, if you grew up and as a child experienced these, because I feel like it's a very repetitive conditioning for people pleasing, right? So I think it's probably more prevalent and prominent in people that experience this at younger ages and kind of consistently
have
through their life than, you had one bad partner and now all of a sudden you step into people pleasing, or you might have people pleased in that relationship, but it's easier to step away from it than when it happened, as a child and for
and I think
decades.
Too, it's it often happens in what we perceive as, it can happen in good relationships. It can happen in loving relationships. It can really just boil down to kind of, we'll get to this in a little bit, but just the customs, the routines, the expectations, that social conditioning. It is a trauma response. And I think it can possibly be rooted in like that bigger moment where it's like I am adapting to this, like I am working myself around this incident. But we often, and I think I already said this, but we often have success from that. It's like, oh,
Yes.
that actually gave me a short term or like in the moment answer to the underlying problem. So that worked. We'll see if I might try that again sometime.
There's a definite connection between people pleasing and hearing the affirmative words like the good child or the mediator or the fixer. But then you said earlier too, when someone calls you a people pleaser, how you don't view that as a good thing, right? But they're actually naming the same thing in different ways. So if someone says people pleaser to you, what do you initially feel?
I guess I feel like it's a criticism, like it's like they're naming a bad trait, a bad quality. I feel shame. I feel like a little bit embarrassed. Like, especially because I'm like, I don't know, almost 40. And I'm like, I should have figured this out. I think it kind of also disempowers me. Like it makes me feel as though I'm in a maladaptive response. I'm in a maladaptive energy. Like I'm like underperforming. And I'm still kind of like not doing things quite right.
That makes sense. I hear it as weakness.
Yeah.
I hear like there's something weak in you. Oh, you're such a people pleaser.
Yeah. And it's like a little sucky baby. Like you're just trying to like suck up to everybody and like be liked by everybody. And it's inauthentic.
Yeah. And it's also, I think I've shared this story with you before. I had a girlfriend in high school and she came up to me one time and she said, you can have an opinion. Like, it's okay. You're okay. Like if you want to do this, just tell me. And yes, I was definitely an active people pleaser, but I'm also relational. So a lot of times it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I just want to be with the person. So I'll do anything. I don't have an opinion,
flow.
Right? Were there times that I didn't say it to be a people pleaser? Absolutely. Part of growing older has learned when I'm just going with the flow and when it really doesn't matter and I just want to spend time with the person.
Yeah. I think also too in my kind of like progression or like evolution, there will be moments where I will people please, but it's usually an internal battle. It's usually like, okay, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a people pleaser. I want to report the dog. I want to report the dog, but am I going to? And it's a lot of it is right now in this iteration of my people pleasing, a very like internal battle of like, do I speak up? Do I say what I want to say? Or am I just going to swallow it and just take it? And I think too, with time, what's become a lot more noticeable is the unsettled feeling of it. So yes. I've begun to really notice like, you just self-abandoned. Like you just took the easy route. You just avoided conflict. And I think it's easier for me to notice because it doesn't get me as far anymore. Like yes. I'm like, well, now I'm just in this predicament and it's actually just causing me more work. And another example from recently was in my job, a lot of like my position is based on a grant, like funding, and there's markers, like there's things like targets that we have to meet, and it's all things that like I have to. It dictates how I do my job, and I'm growing like uncomfortable with that. I'm growing out of my role in a sense where like my pull to be more intuitive, be more like doing what I work in a high school, like doing what the kids are like asking for, like tending to the actual needs that are being presented in front of me. And there was this moment last week where I was like asked by my supervisor, like, where are you at on these deliverables? And my first instinct was to lie. My first instinct was to like soften the edges, like kind of make it seem like somehow that I was hitting all the marks.
Yes.
in doing exactly what they want. And I wasn't. And it doesn't mean that I'm not doing good work, but they aren't asking for that. They're asking for like actual data, like,
Yes.
and that corresponds with the funding. And I had such a moment of being like, okay, if I lie, then I have to maintain this lie. Like, and then
Yes.
I'm lying. And then I'm actually like devaluing myself, devaluing the work I'm doing just to appear good. Like just to,
Yes.
and it took me like a full day to kind of come to, no, tell the truth and provide rationale, like explain why, and give credit to the work you are doing, and speak to the needs of the kids. And it, I guess what I didn't want to do was fall into this like making excuses, over explaining, like looking like I'm, and I think the real worry is that like I'm going to be perceived as like a slacker. I'm not, they might fire me. They might like slap me on the wrist and say, well, you got to do better. And none of that happened. Like,
Yes.
They have to ask me these things, but it literally, they were just like, okay, thank you so much. And and I was honest. And I kind of had to play the tape of like, where would this get me if I lied? And why would I lie? Like, I'm freaking almost 40.
Yeah.
Like, come on, don't be lying. Like, don't lie. But it was really just to protect like those parts of me that were like needing reassurance, needing approval, that like you're doing a good job. But I'm, like so relieved that I just am like, no, like that stuff actually isn't important to me.
No. And I think what comes up too is the old people pleaser would have done backflips to meet the rubrics and hit the criteria and hit the marks,
yes,
right?
Right.
And then
I'm not doing that.
Well, yeah. And the growth is being able to step away from that and stand true in what you see's value, right? Which is the connection and the relationship and more organic, intuitive, but you're still battling that.
Yes. I'm kind of halfway.
Yeah. Well, and it comes up, right? Because we've operated out of that for so many years. So I'm going to do this. So that's growth. No, I'm going to do that. Oh, but should I? That tension that it creates.
Yeah. I'm not just like a straight shot to confidence. I'm like, there I am. There's the real authentic me.
But getting there is the journey too, right? Like each time something like that comes up, it's practice. We're just practicing the new skills, practicing not operating out of old patterns, right? And then like anything you practice, it becomes more instinctive kind of as time goes on.
And it's also giving my supervisor, like I'm actually just showing them who I am and like what they can expect from me. And then, like this is going to happen quarterly. Like I'm going to have to do this every 3 months. So, just to set the expectations accurately, could potentially make this a lot easier moving forward.
Well, and also difference okay. Right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have you there if they didn't like what you're doing.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's true.
So stepping into that too. And we talk so much about part of coming out of people pleasing, I think, is also stepping into that authenticity.
Yes.
Right? Not selling yourself and abandoning yourself to keep other people happy, being more authentic and true to yourself. So
I think I could do a whole episode on just the work we do and like the parameters that are put on us in these jobs and like the deliverables, and just feeling like, there's such rigidity to some of these expectations. And it's like, who is ever, like, I don't know, it's like framed as if this is like being achieved by people. And then I talk to my colleagues and they're all in the same boat as I am. And it's just so interesting, like the way we, like the grant is, the funding, it's all just trickle down where we're all just like taking on this huge amount of responsibility and then just like passing it on to the next person to be like, Kate, take your responsibility now.
Yeah.
And it just really does take me out of my authenticity. And I just, I found myself in this position in a lot of different jobs. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's saying or says about me, but
Well, it's probably showing your growth because it's no longer something that's comfortable, right? Your tolerance level's decreasing for it. So
yeah. Yeah. So for me, like when we think about environments, sorry, we totally strayed, but like I do feel like there's something to be said about these like high structured, high expectation environments that isn't where my people pleasing necessarily came from, but can really perpetuate some of the behaviors.
definitely, like growing up in an environment with high standards and perfectionism, or having an emotionally unavailable parent, or being parentified as a child.
Totally. That huge
typical
responsibility.
narcissistic parent or partner. Also growing up in a family that avoided conflict. Like if conflict was bad, definitely that creates a people pleaser and trying to smooth over situations and
like how would you approach conflict in other environments if you weren't ever shown how?
Well, and if you're taught from a young child that it's bad, which culturally sometimes it is. Sometimes there's conflict's just not even acceptable. But then if you have parents that are kind of emotionally immature, don't have high emotional intelligence, then conflict can often, I would say in my family, we didn't talk about things and I was a talker, I was a feeler, and, there wasn't a lot of room for that. It just, I remember my mom had a brain aneurysm, and it was Thanksgiving after, and it was one of the largest aneurysms they'd seen. We were told she had like a 5 to 10% chance of surviving. She'd be left brain damaged if she survived, and she walked away like completely fine. She didn't have any side effects really, other than a slight personality change, which is normal. But I remember at Thanksgiving saying, okay, let's all really say what we're thankful for. And I was the weirdo, and then I said, I'm just so thankful Mom's here. Well, the dead silence in the room, because it was just so too emotional, too charged. Like, we don't talk about stuff like that.
We don't talk about that giant elephant in the room, Cindy.
No, and it was just so obvious at the time when I said it, right?
Yeah.
But, so that definitely a creation. And also, another example is experiencing or being part of a group who has grown up with racism or discrimination or exclusion or microaggressions, so they learn to accommodate to be accepted, be perceived as more acceptable, more palatable, right, in those environments. So, lots of different situations which can foster people-pleasing tendencies, for sure.
Yes. And so just to note quickly on some of the psychological factors of people-pleasing, this can look like low self-esteem. This can look like fear of rejection, so just that bracing, anxiety, perfectionism, and this kind of like insatiable need for external validation. So always kind of looking outwards, really tending to like that perception of others. These all feel really relational to me. Low self-esteem, it can often be like how we compare ourselves to others and, never feel like we're quite sizing up. So I don't know, these are all psychological factors, but for me, they really do kind of rub up against like the relational component of our experience. Sure. Yeah.
And I think from like the somatic perspective, they're not somatic experiences that lead to people pleasing. It's more how people pleasing affects the body somatically. So the residuals of that in the nervous system. So by experiencing traumas early on and then adapting to them and learning to be, stepping into the fawning, let's say, the people-pleasing role. Basically, your nervous system has two parts to it. It has the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we are, and those are very primitive, it's caveman days. Like there's a T-Rex, you run and your body
Danger.
creates hormones to raise your blood pressure, to do all those things you need to do to survive. So they're very primitive. I think what's happened today and through trauma as well is that trauma elevates that system and it alters the ability for the sympathetic nervous system to regulate back down into the parasympathetic nervous system. So if you are constantly being triggered and feeling endangered, you remain in that heightened state. So a healthy system, it elevates when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And it regulates back down once the threat has passed. If you're constantly being threatened, it stays elevated. And then that cycle gets disrupted. And then that ends up causing damage to the systems in the body. The opposite of fight and flight is rest and digest. So if you can't get back into rest and digest, that's why we see often nervous system disorders around stomach health, heavy duty gut issues, sleep issues, because your body's not coming back down into that state. That's one of the reasons breath work's so powerful in helping with these traumas, because it teaches us how to process the emotion through our body by activating the breath, right? So if you're in an elevated state, you're often shallow breathing.
Yes.
Right? You sometimes catch yourself, you haven't taken a deep breath forever, right? So the somatic part is more the effects of the people pleasing, whereas the psychological part is... it's an effect too, but it kind of steps in the beginning. And somatics is the somatic impact comes later when you haven't processed the traumas and you've been acting out of that frozen state. Sense?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like it's so interesting right now. So I've been like diagnosed with IBS. I've had chronic digestive problems for a very, very, very long time. And I've always had the sense that it's related to my anxiety. Like I've been diagnosed with anxiety. I know that I spend a lot of time shallow breathing. I've often had just bloating, and it literally just feels like trapped. Like it's like I've just been like inflating my stomach all day because of my shallow breathing. But it's had chronic effects. And so IBS is like a chronic diagnosis where it's just sort of there, and it's just been building and building and building over time. But what's so interesting is that I've spent years trying to figure out, like, do I have a food intolerance? Do I, is it like, what is it? What do I have control over? What adaptations can I make? Like, what things can I cut out? It's always been like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Causing me a lot of stress and anxiety. And since moving here to the United States, I have a new nurse practitioner. I adore her. And she is the first person in my entire experience with all these digestive issues, and these seriously started when I was like 18 or 19. She suggested a drug called amitriptyline, and amitriptyline used to be used as an antidepressant, and it's no longer used for that. But I basically take a very, very low dose of an antidepressant, and it like calms the responses in my gut. And basically, like, my brain has learned to signal my gut that food is dangerous. Yeah. That food is like, and this is, we're straying a little bit, but it is just to kind of articulate this like brain gut connection. Axis. Yeah. And how it's just interesting that like something that was historically used for mental illness is actually like muting my pain receptors and my pain response in my gut. And it's the first thing that has ever worked. And the idea is to only be on it for like a specific length of time, like maybe up to a year. And that is to basically like rewire my brain, like this connection to like basically have my brain have this length of time where it's not in that like hyper vigilant like response mode. It's like muting those responses and basically giving my brain all of this experience of having a positive response with food going into my stomach. So That's a tangent, but just felt relevant.
No, it makes total sense because the nervous system, one of the key components is the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is responsible for cardiovascular and gut-brain relationship, right? So when your nervous system's dysregulated, how many people have anxiety, panic attacks, racing heart, unable to sleep, bloating, unable to eat? And if you're not getting into your body's telling you, so when you're activated, you're not in rest or digest. So your body doesn't actually send what it needs to help you digest. So actually eating is painful.
Right.
You do get bloated. You get a stomach ache. When I'm really activated, I can barely take in food. Like it's so difficult for me. I have such stomach pains. I'll get heartburn. If I'm really in a heightened state for too long, I just become completely food avoidant because I know that it's going to hurt.
Not gonna, it's not going to sit
make
well.
me feel, and I, same thing. I had IBS for years, never understood the connection between the two, right? So if you're not taking care of those parts of your body, it's an inherent wisdom to stop that area from working because energy is going elsewhere.
It's so interesting. Yeah. I just feel like it's not a coincidence that I've had like all these digestive issues. You know, I've had anxiety. I've had different traumatic experiences. Like, I don't know, like I'm pretty sure that this is just like a system-wide response to, to like just basically trying to manage living life with all of its context. Yeah.
Well, I think too, like the really key part of it is the somatic work too. Like there's lots of studies right now that you actually are not going to heal from trauma without somatic work because trauma is such an internalized physiological
felt experience
thing, right? So if you're not working to move that through you, then how are you moving past it, right? And then that's how it becomes chronic. And that's also, I think, chronic conditions is like you'll get a stomach ache. Okay, you're not listening to me. Okay, now I'm going to give you IBS. Okay, you're still not listening to me.
Yes.
Now you're going to give you a thyroid condition. You know what I mean? Like the body will just keep screaming for the attention it needs over time. And it's just at what point, like I was always like that. I would push myself so hard. At Christmas time, I would end up at the doctor's with a double ear sinus. Or Christmas.
Like, are you listening?
Or Christmas came and I'd just crash and get sick every year because I'd just gone so hard.
That's such a common experience.
Totally. As soon as
it's like, hi people, let's maybe collectively.
And how many decades did I have to do that?
Yes.
And knowing it, like I knew it back then. I'd say, I'm going to get sick. I pushed myself so, but did I change my patterns?
Well, you didn't know how.
No.
Yeah. Learning.
Exactly. Learned behavior.
Yes. I just want to touch a little bit more on the psychological components of people pleasing. Like I was saying before, like a lot of it does present in these, like, it's a relational strategy. It's something that we've adapted to over time. I explained in my experience, like so much of my people pleasing is that like tending to relationships. Like, how do I stay connected, stay in relationship? Like, what do I need to do, like, at all costs to tend to that relationship? And it's not because, like, we're weak or we're fake or we're insecure. Like, it's not because we are inherently doing something wrong or have, like, this flaw. It's because we've done it at some point and it's worked. Like, we've had that confirmation, that affirmation, that validation, like, you know what?
Kept us safe.
Other people benefit from this too. It's like we've had that experience of like that felt sense of safety, and other people can then be like, oh, I like when Corey is around. Like, things just get done, or, all our needs are taken care of, or, she just kind of lets me off the hook. I can do whatever I want.
I often think that it's actually us giving other people what we wanted.
Say more about that.
Well, I feel like for myself, I'm giving people the love and the attention and the understanding and the intimacy that I have so desperately craved my whole life.
Yeah.
And I see that really coming up with the news right now.
Yeah.
So like my therapist will say, Cindy, it's hard on your nervous system. Just manage what you're taking in or what you're watching. And I said to her the other day, I said, but no one was there to witness me when I need it. And I feel this obligation to witness the things that are going on in the world, right? Like that's what I wanted in the time when stuff was happening to me. I wish someone had seen or heard or been there. Yeah. And it's the same as I have always had, just an overwhelming desire for intimate relationships, like connecting with people in a really intimate way. I've always kind of struggled with, oh, how's the weather? How's your day? Like, I just want to get to the nitty gritty. I want to know you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that comes deeply from wanting to be seen and heard and known intimately, right? So by people pleasing, and which to me for me has translated as nurturing, taking care of, listening. It's a lot of it comes from the fact that I wanted that.
Yes. My gosh. I relate to that so much. And it's so funny to see like the way, I don't know if you can relate to this, but like in conversations, like I am an active listener. I am asking open-ended questions. I am like curious. I'm laughing. But then when a question will come my way, I'll like bat it aside to be like, no, I'm taking care of you. But it's like, I so desperately actually want to be on the receiving end. I want to be like sharing. And I often will leave experiences feeling like, wow, nobody probably knows anything about me. Like I've almost like, it's turned into me not even giving them the opportunity.
I totally agree with that.
So focused on caretaking.
Totally.
And I'm like, but I so badly long for it.
But I think in my case, I also create a situation where there isn't room for it. I think there's a subconscious drive there. If I'm always caring for you, then I don't have to be vulnerable. Because I've also historically, and not at all to be a pity party, but have historically felt let down. I haven't felt that people have really been there in the way that I've needed or to feel safe. And, with time, I think I also realized that part of that is the depth and level that I want connection is probably not the same that a lot of people maybe want or step into, and maybe that's uncomfortable. I also take ownership in the fact that I do create that. If I'm pouring into you and listening, then there's not room for me to have to be vulnerable.
And like, how uncomfortable is it to ask for our needs to be met? Like to really put our needs out there and trust that people will meet them, or trust that people will receive them or hold them or care for them in the same way. And that's something that like I know that I don't do as much as I crave my needs being met. Like it's a very like, it's like I want these things, but my ability to ask for them, it is very scary. And it also is like I've created all these dynamics in different relationships where that might even be weird now. It might even be weird or uncomfortable, like not just for me, but for them on the receiving end to be like, oh, wait, but you're the one that does.
I think definitely that happens. I've had that happen in my life for sure, where when I have hit a time of need, I've lost friends. Because that isn't the role that I've played in that relationship. Right. And I have another dynamic where I think as a people pleaser and a caretaker, we become very good at juggling a lot of balls. So I've heard my whole life, how do you do it all? I don't know. How do you how can you do so much, right? And to me, every time I hear it, I just think, what are you talking about? I'm doing no different than anyone else. I also have this thing, though, where I will feel like I'm literally screaming for help. And after the fact, I've maybe gone back and said, like, I was really struggling. And they're like, I thought you were totally fine. Right. And in my mind, I'm screaming, like begging for help. But I don't ever present that. I don't present that that's what's going on in my life. And I think sometimes, quite honestly, people have their own lives and they're busy. And it's easy to just say, oh, no, you look like you're fine. Yeah. and not think, oh, wait a second, if I step back and look what's going on right now,
Right.
obviously she's not fine.
Well, yeah, and it's like, oh, actually, yes, I am resilient. Yes, I've endured a lot. Yes, I am a survivor in all of these ways, and I also need help sometimes. I think, sometimes for me, I think the fact that I'm just such a crier, like I will cry at the drop of a hat. Just look at me a certain way and I'll cry, has been like almost the only way that I'm like learned how to ask for help. Like,
yes.
And it's not that I'm doing it with that awareness. I'm actually just kind of having an aha moment right now.
Yeah.
But like, it is often my tears that will like be what's asking for help. Be the only part of me that is asking for help is when I literally can't hold them in anymore, and I'm trying to just like keep it all together, but they're like welling up in my eyes, and then it's like, oh gosh, like,
yes,
what's wrong? Well, how can I help? What
Well, and on a subconscious level, you may have equated those,
right?
I mean,
Totally.
I think also you are just highly emotional and tears
Yes.
come easily. But you might also, on some level, have equated, that there are times when I've just really needed it and this has happened.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about. I hadn't really ever thought about that until right now.
Sometimes we don't have the words.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right? I mean, I've been in situations when I've just been so emotional that tears are the only option, right? And they do convey what I can't say, or convey something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the tears, right? Like, and also I think like when
triggers
people
a response.
see us cry, like I know for me, even my kids who like, push, the second I cry, we must have really done something wrong.
Yeah.
And I cry easily.
We've taken things too far.
Yeah.
I also just wanted us to consider attachment, social conditioning, and belonging. And as that relates to people pleasing, I think that, not to beat a dead horse, but that some of us have learned that the fastest way to keep a connection is to become less visible. So like we're modifying ourselves in order to have our needs met. We're adapting to different dynamics in relationships. And we're just like being that malleable, that like,
totally.
That like just, I'm here seeking connection, but I'm also trying to do it in a way that just like, I'm just blending in with the landscape, almost taking like the scraps of a connection and like holding them on like they're a prized possession. Like at least I got a little bit. And I think that, attachment is something that I'm still kind of coming to understand, not just like in my own experience, but just from that more like psychological perspective and like, attachment needs, like how, there are these attachment wounds that can happen, and not intentionally. Like oftentimes it's like, maybe it's a single parent, or maybe it's work schedules. Maybe it's just that like absence, for very, very like logical reasons. But as a result, we learn to like self-soothe, we learn to adapt, we learn to like become like less of a nuisance, like to just steer clear. Yeah. So that's kind of what comes up for me when I think about attachment as it relates to people pleasing.
Yeah. And I think the desire for attachment is just so innate. Mm-hmm. It's an instinct. Mm-hmm. So I think therefore survival. It becomes so easy to instinctively learn to adapt in order to get that, right? Because the drive it's so deep for attachment. I mean, as humans, we're just made to attach. It's, like you say, survival with mother and stuff like that. So I see it as a very easy and natural that we would adapt and do what we need in order to get that, right? And self-abandonment, at that point it's survival. So I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, just to get that little scrap of connection or whatever it is, whatever shape it looks like whatever it is, it's like, okay, I will adapt to this level of attachment. It may not be anywhere near what I actually want, but like
Yes.
I will pretend like this is enough. I also think that there is like a differentiation between care and kindness and self-abandonment. Like there's at least a moment where we can kind of like, theoretically pause and be like, okay, am I being kind? Like, am I in my essence, like truly trying to be kind, generous, present, all of these like positive qualities? Or am I actually like, is there a little bit of underlying quest or journey or
driving force?
Yeah, that's actually just like really trying to, well, it's not trying to, but it's actually like it's self-abandonment guised as all these nice things. And that's one thing that I'm like not as aware of necessarily in the moment. I think that's a hard one to catch. Is my motivation like getting my need met in some way? And that's where fawning comes in. It's like, okay, how do I like saddle up to this threat or this danger or this, even someone who's like not very nice to me.
Yes.
But I have to get a need met somehow. Like how am I going to strategically do this? We can also be kind people. Like that's where it gets like blurry. And it's sort of like, again, it could be that underlying attachment need, that underlying need for safety, those sort of like what's sort of just below the surface of our behavior.
Yeah, that also brings up, I struggle with this a lot over the last little while. I feel like our society has moved so much towards the kind of me, I movement, and like don't do anything, doesn't feel good for you, don't feel. So I feel like that has also had a little bit of a backlash on people that tend to naturally like acts of service is your love language, or you naturally kind of are a caretaker, or you are highly emotional, or you do care about other people, right? So it's kind of navigating that middle road, because I don't think all the way, I never want to get to the way where the side of the pendulum where, well, that doesn't feel good for me. I don't like, that would never be a comfortable place for me to be. And I don't say that because I think I'm broken in that way. I think for my personality and character, that would feel as uncomfortable as being in full-blown people-pleasing. Right? So navigating that, like you said, what's the driving force, the chicken or the egg? How much is me? How much is my personality? How much is my nervous system trauma response? I think we kind of navigate that always. And add into that being highly sensitive. Being relationship driven. Like there's all these parts of ourselves. It's not just our trauma. It's not just, our emotions. It's not just, they all kind of intertwine. Yeah. Like we were saying earlier, this personality or this adaptation is kind of affirmed, the good girl, the nice person, the mediator. It's teasing apart kind of what's driving what.
Yeah, that's
I think,
interesting.
right? Like, am I being driven by a need to be good?
Who's driving?
Or or is it because I genuinely care? So just kind of always, I find right now I'm in this stage of always evaluating every situation and kind of in the middle of the road, because I can get angry right now for the first time in my life. I've always struggled with anger. Like I honestly for years thought I didn't possess the ability to get, I would cry. It would be tears, right?
That's me, yeah.
And my counselor has said that, anger is always masking something. So you're actually getting to the root of it without masking anger. But there's times that you need to be angry.
Right. I was once told, I can't remember by who, but that anger is a very productive emotion. Yes. It's like, it serves a purpose. Like it gets you somewhere. Yeah. Quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that when we're looking at ourselves, especially when we're, changing and growing and moving forward and moving out of old habits, it's like not being too critical of yourself, and you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like you don't have to never be concerned about other people's emotions again, or it's finding that middle road where you're not self-abandoning yourself. So if it feels good to you and it's not some deep-seated ulterior motive, then that's probably where you want to land.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear more from you as we move along, just around like how we could somatically kind of check in those moments to like use our body as a bit of a compass or, another tool to be helping us make those decisions. Because I think, when I think about all the thoughts and all the emotions and, all of the busyness and the noise, and especially like I think that we're so dialed into listening to our thoughts before we are listening to our bodies. I'm really excited to like move forward into like learning how to be using our bodies as a resource, like to be understanding our bodies as like holding wisdom. There's like another player at the table, like able to help us through some of those moments. Like it's like, hey, I have information. Like I'm also here to help. So I know that you will have lots to share, and we can explore that a little bit more as we move along.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited how the two work together.
Yeah.
Too, like
we're a system.
Yeah, definitely. The head and the heart, and
totally.
It's very exciting. And there's lots of, one of the things that I've found exciting lately is that there's been a lot of movement in treating conditions that were previously thought untreatable through somatic work, like severe PTSD and things like that, where there wasn't a lot of necessarily hope for sufferers before, and now they've had lots of wonderful outcomes with it. So that's just exciting as well.
That's so hopeful, and it's almost kind of hilarious that it's like, oh yeah, the body. Oh yeah, that huge vessel that carries our brain.
That carries all of it, right? And it's funny because it's the one thing I say, like, I've said it once, I've said it 36 times. The shocking part to me is how simple it is. And the huge gains you make in like just brief moments, and it's not re-traumatizing, and it's just really beautiful work. And the more I do it, the more I love it, because it is that, like, you see people just get such huge releases without having to be re-traumatized. And quite often the response is like, that was so easy.
Well, yeah. And I think you've shared like just how productive it is. Like how it's just like, okay, like, let's get to work. Like, let's.
And it's like, and it's what they experience. They actually leave and like they feel the effects of it right then and there. You know, like they walk out lighter.
I think what we achieved here today is just that like educational, like bringing in those kind of concrete nuggets of information, but trying to bring it back to personal experiences. I think we've both demonstrated that like this is a journey. This isn't like a pass fail. This isn't like you will get rid of all of these behaviors or these patterns. It's something that we are learning to nurture, to take care of, to tend to challenge, let them become a little uncomfortable and like see how they develop, see how they evolve, what changes, what's sort of a little bit sticky and still showing up and like is becoming increasingly uncomfortable.
Well, and I think also that, I Corey knows this, I hate the term healed. But it's you're not getting to the point. Healed is not that you're not reacting. Getting curious, what's going on? Why am I reacting this way? And learning from it. So healing is not never reacting or never getting angry, or it's having it happen and understanding why.
I think like the biggest thing that I want to offer, to have that tenderness, to have that grace, those beautiful qualities that we just give away to so many people, and to save some of that for yourself, for your own
self-care too, so that you're resourced, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we navigate all of this the best when we're the most resourced.
I think this conversation was an example of like how interwoven some of these conversations can be. And I think that even from this one conversation, we can broaden or go deeper in a number of different ways. So it's exciting. It feels like kind of limitless. And that's, for me, like a really renewed excitement, which is exactly like why I just feel so excited to have Cindy, to have you here. So
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Okay. So as always, thank you so much for listening. We just love hearing from you. So please reach out to us on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. If there's anything that like really resonated that, you want to hear more on, or you can relate to, like, we would love to hear from you. It's just exciting for this to feel like a conversation and a community. We're very much all about that. If you haven't noticed, that's like the most important thing to us in the entire world is relationships. So do not hesitate to reach out. We will catch you on the next episode.
See you soon.
Bye. Once again, this is Corey
and Cindy with the People Pleaser Podcast.
Thank you for supporting the podcast. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can find more content from us on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.